Damn it! Oh, come on. Dude, I hit the button. I swear to God I wasn't standing in that fire. Why? Okay, alright. One more time and then I'm gonna go. Oh my God, okay, I quit. Who created this crap? Ah!
You suck, old man.
What'd you say? What'd you say? How old are you?
12.
You're 12? Oh, get out of here, kid. I'm gonna go tell your mom.
Get good, scrub.
You get good. You are listening to Scrubs vs. the World with your host, Cyrub.
And welcome into the show, everyone. Tonight, we're going to dive into the second leg of the Holy Trinity series and talk some raid healing. And I have with me Burkheart from Burkheart Gaming. So how you doing tonight, bud?
Hey, not bad, man. You can call me Burk. Keep it easy for you.
Perfect. I was going to probably do that anyway, eventually, just lead into that.
It's all good.
Oh, man. So we're going to just try to demystify this whole healing thing. Part of the main reason why I wanted to start this series anyway is because I read tweets and I have actual conversations with people in game how they're afraid to start healing and they want to try it, but they don't know where to even begin. So hopefully Burke and I can kind of clear that way for you and get you in there keeping people alive. But to do that, we're going to ask Burke how he does it, because it's more fun with guests.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
That's right. So to start it off, well, how long have you been playing WoW?
So I started my WoW career, I think it's most like dog years for the most part. I started in November of 2004, but I haven't played all 15 years. I think I went through and did the math, and I'm like 12 and a half years with the game. I unsub when I'm not really feeling the game, but for the most part, I played every expansion. So
nice, cool. So are you Horde or Alliance?
Well, I started my WoW career, hand quotes career, as Horde. I switched. I played a Troll Shaman not always a Troll Shaman, but we'll get into that. I played Horde up until Mists of Pandaria, and I've been Alliance ever since.
Nice. What caused you to switch?
I just wasn't liking where the story was going, and frankly, after Cataclysm, I just kind of wanted something a little different.
I totally hear that. What is your favorite race and class?
I'm kind of a cross between both my Horde and Alliance stuff, but for the most part, since I played a Troll Shaman when I was Horde, and then I play a Dark Iron Dwarf as Alliance, that's kind of where I go with that. I mostly Shaman. I started my WoW career as a hunter in vanilla, and I've played since a Holy Paladin, and then a Resto Shaman, and a Demon Hunter when it came out for a bit, and then back to Enhanced. So I'm kind of all over the place, but for the most part, my Shaman.
See, this is why we had that connection, because I just love Shaman too. Like, Shaman's just, it's my go-to. Like, I dinked around with Hunter. Like, I had a Hunter as well in vanilla.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people did.
Yeah. I played with my wife. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. So, we'd Eyes of the Beast into our pet and go kill Hordes. But no, the Shaman is just feels like home,
Yeah.
So I like that. So how long have you been raiding?
So I got into raiding roughly the start of Molten Core, and not like right when it opened up, but I started with Molten Core, and it really like sunk into me. And I've raided pretty much every raid tier except for oh crap, what is it called? Dragon Soul. Dragon Soul's the only one I haven't actually stepped foot in because, when it was current content.
Yeah, I didn't do that one either. We're like WoW twins or something.
Well, I was on a break right after Firelands, and I decided I was going to take a break, and then once Mists of Pandaria was rolling around, I was like, well, I kind of want to come back to WoW.
No, that was the same thing with me, man. Firelands about killed my guild, and then we all took a breather and came back at Miss, and we've been strong ever since. So it's been pretty fun. So what class are you currently rating as?
I rate as a Resto Shaman.
Cool.
At the beginning of this experience, well, so from Legion to about right before Eternal Palace came out, I was playing Enhancement, and then we were having some heal issues, and I made a deal with my raid leader before I switched. I was like, hey, if we ever have issues and I feel like I need to go back to healing, I'm going back healing. And he was like, all right. And we were having some issues, and I was like, all right, picking it back up, like riding a bike.
There you go. I love it. Yeah, it's funny. Now this is where we kind of split, because I've been healing forever, and then I was like, I need a break. So I flipped to Elemental right at the end of Palace or Eternal Palace.
Yeah, we had a large influx of healers at the end of Hellfire Citadel and Warlords, and when we first got the access to the Demon Hunter, I was like, well, I'll go ahead and roll DPS, and I made the deal with my guild leader, so this worked out.
Yeah. What got you into raid healing to begin with?
Well, I filled kind of a role as like a secondary raid leader throughout my WoW career, and I was always told by some of our healers that I have very good observation skills when it comes to seeing the battlefield and seeing what's going on. And so they always said, oh yeah, you make a pretty good healer. And I'm like, well, we'll see. We'll think about it. And then once Burning Crusade rolled around, I was like, I want to play a paladin. So we didn't have paladins as Horde. And so rolled a paladin, and I found I had a knack for it.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I actually joined my guild as a healer. I was a part of another team, and the Hammer of Valinor chunk fell in Ulduar. Yeah. And that destroyed my 25 man I was in. And so my coworker is like, hey, you should come. We need a healer. Come heal with us. So I was like, sweet. So I jumped in with them in Ulduar, I believe. I don't know, man. It's been so long. Get it all mixed up.
Yeah, the legendaries are all cursed. If one of your guild members gets a legendary, they're pretty much guaranteed to quit in the next 2 to 3 months.
Oh, yeah. No, it was bad, man. It was like half the raid left the second that it happened. So, all right, let's do a little story time action here real quick. Sorry to interrupt. But so the story to that is my friend was an enhancement shaman, and he was raid leading, but he had to play on his paladin because we needed another healer. So back then, 25 man, if you didn't have 25 people, you weren't raiding, right? So he jumps in, the chunk falls. He goes quiet for like 10 minutes after it drops. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm going to take it, guys. I'm going to switch to paladin. And we're like, whoa. And so half the guild's like, no, I don't think so. And they just bolted right from there. And then we tried to do a 10-man group from the ashes of that guild, and that didn't work out. So it was brutal.
Yeah, that's brutal, man.
All over a chunk, like the chunk of Valinor that we didn't even see any more pieces after that. So it's like, wow, that was fun. But I'm glad it happened, because now I'm in my current guild and I've been there forever. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, not the original part, but
no.
But it's nice that you found a home.
Yeah, no, it's been great. So, sorry, reeling it back in here, getting back on track. So, when you were jumping into healing initially, what kind of resources did you use to help you kind of get into that role?
Well, so it was Burning Crusade, so we've had very few resources. I learned a lot by doing, and I definitely put myself into situations where I had to learn and work to make myself better. And whether it was doing, the heroic dungeons, I would do Karazhan, and until I eventually found a guild that I really liked, and I just stuck with them. And then I moved on after it blew up and went to a hardcore progression guild in Burning Crusade. And then it was, just pound out attempts and get better as you go. And, I forget the resources at the time, but MMO Champion was a good resource. I don't remember that, and asking people, like talking with other other guilds paladins, like, hey, why do you take this talent over this one? What consumables are you using? Why are you gemmed this way versus this way? And you just kind of, I don't know, the community has always kind of been that way. And if you're willing to, like, you can find people that are willing to, like, share their information, go for it, man. Just bounce ideas off their head. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point of me doing this show, getting the information out there and just talking to other people, because they know something you don't, maybe.
Right.
And maybe there's that one little piece that you need. So, no, that's a great piece of advice. Did you ever go to Elitist Jerks?
Elitist Jerks was a great resource back in the day, but sometimes they would take talents and things that you're like, oh, why'd you take that? Or why would you eat this food? Or, why would you do that? And a lot of the times, these people who are writing these guides, and it goes for nowadays too, that you're never going to have the same raid comps as they're going to have. You're never going to have the same amount of gear as they have.
Mm-hmm.
But, your guild probably is running 17 melee because everybody's afraid to play ranged. But, you might not have a paladin healer, or you might not have a disc priest or something, and you have 4 resto shamans that are trying to do the job of a tank healer. But you just kind of have to. Sometimes these guides are great, and other times you have to kind of figure out how to work around them.
Right. I'm a learner by doing as well. And reading these guides can get confusing at times.
Very much.
Like Icy Veins, for example, they lay it out pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can read their stuff and understand it, but it's still a function of getting in and doing it. I think practice is probably one of the better things you can do.
Well, it's definitely a great outline to what you're looking for, and Icy Veins does a great job. Most of them are attached to like great discords where people are willing to give you information, but I wouldn't feel bad if you couldn't get all of, let's say, the essences that are recommended on there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have the patience to do the arena stuff to get conflict and strife, but it's not really hurting me to not have it.
I totally agree with that as well. Because I know when I was healing the previous tiers, I didn't have all of the things they recommended, and I was still okay. Everyone was alive and we won, so
exactly.
That's always a good thing. Now, so how do you set your UI up? Do you go with the stock UI, or do you use any add-ons or anything to help you out?
So when I started healing, I built my own UIs. I would use Xpearl and a bunch of add-ons and just add them together and put them together to make this comprehensive UI that I liked. The problem with doing that is they break. Mm-hmm. Every time you get a patch, and next thing you know, you're running the stock UI and you're like, okay, how do I make this work? And none of your other abilities work. Nowadays I run LVUI. I have a handful of other add-ons that just make healing more possible. But even still, like nowadays, it isn't too detrimental not to have like a ton of add-ons.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like they've added a lot of things to the stock UI, like the raid frames. Mm-hmm. I like that little window. I know some people don't, but whatever. What are some of those UI pieces that you feel are absolutely vital for a healer to have on their screen?
Well, for me, the major thing that I have to have over everything else is some raid frames that I like. Mm-hmm. And LVUI does it for me. Like Xpearl before it got discontinued. I think it's got Xpearl now or something. But that's what fits my my main focus. Starting out as a healer, I found the cursive was invaluable. Deadly boss mods are big wigs to have timers for the most part. Mm-hmm. Oh crap! What else do I have? I have so many. Like weak auras is another great tool because sometimes these bosses have like special abilities and things, and if your whole raid has a weak aura that tells you, "Hey, you have these 2 debuffs, and you need to do these things," and your dude's spouting it over your head, it's a great thing to do.
Right.
Exorcist raid tools is fantastic. It is a tool that I have on the side, tells me how many battle reses are available, what cooldowns are available. Yeah, it's definitely just, hey, if I need to yell at the warriors, hey, I need a battle shout. Make sure we all don't die.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know in our group we use that one a lot.
Yeah.
And even if you're not in like a leadership role, like I recommend having it because you can see what else happens. So like if someone else goes down and you don't know what's out there, you might be the only cooldown left. So
exactly,
that's something to keep in mind. Well, cool. Is there any other ones?
I like Opie. It might be an odd one, but I find if I can clean up all the unnecessary junk off my bars and put it in the Opie, it makes life a lot easier for me.
That's awesome.
Because I like having all my tools like right at my arm's reach.
So kind of towards the middle of the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having it to where you have to move your eyes as little as possible is probably the best idea.
Well, as a healer, you find that you always want to kind of keep your head on a swivel for the most part, but as long as you can kind of watch the frames and watch the floor and what the next 3 steps ahead of you have planned, you're great.
Yeah. Well, and let's kind of dive into that a little bit because I know on the DPS side, I mean, obviously you want to kind of do the same things, but it's a different mindset than it is as a healer. Because you mentioned that you have to sit there and you're staring at bars, and then you also have to watch the floor, and then you also have to make sure you're standing in the right spot. So like, what are some of the things that you like to do as far as prepping for a fight so you know where to stand?
For the most part, I find communicating with tanks is always like something that every healer needs to do. Mm-hmm. You need to know what your tanks are doing. You need to know what position they're going to be. If a tank, it also comes down to like knowing how your tanks move. For instance, we have a warrior tank and we have a monk tank. Now, Chi Torpedo can get a tank out of range immediately. So if you need to know, you need to have a general idea where that tank is going to go, and having people in different like quadrants in a room, because a lot of people don't think of it this way, but when you're on a raid encounter, the room is just as much of a boss as the boss itself. And so understanding where, okay, they're going to kite this ad, in X, Y, and Z locations, and I need to be like somewhere ahead of them to make sure I'm always in range of the whole group. It's just a matter of planning out those moves.
That's the hardest, but that's the one thing that I had a hard time getting used to at first. And especially as a shaman healer, because if you move a lot, that doesn't really do well for us.
Right. And we have a lot of tools that kind of keep us on the move. Like healing tide totem's a great thing to do. You hit when you're running. What's another great one? Spirit Walker's Grace plus Ascendance. We have tons of tools. It helps to drop down like Earthwall Totem, like ahead of the group, or Healing Rain. Like, and that's just the shaman abilities. Like the monks have great skills. So do priests. Like everybody does.
I kind of like where they went with it, because the shaman for a while there was, I don't know, I was kind of getting bored with it. And I feel like this time around, like I felt pretty powerful, even though my friends were destroying me numbers wise. Well,
if people are staying alive, the numbers can often, it doesn't really matter in a lot of cases. Like it is definitely fun to parse. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
But killing bosses should always be your priority over parsing.
Right. Well, and we'll kind of touch on that in a minute here once we get kind of post-fight range or area here. So the UI, getting that set up to where you know where you're going, where you're at, what the hell's going on around you. I know another add-on, I don't know if you mentioned this one, but GTFO, I use that one because it screams at you when you're standing in something.
I don't actually run GTFO.
No?
No, never have.
Do you have one that lets you know you're in something, or are you just paying attention?
It's just a lot of it's just paying attention. We'll kind of get into that with being. Let's just say I'm a bit observant when it comes to what's going on.
Oh, okay. No, that's awesome. I love it. That's good. Yeah, I have to. I tunnel hard sometimes, so especially like in big damage phases, I'm just like, no, don't die. And then when I hear the squawk into the GTFO, I know to move.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have to, like, the thing with squawk at me sometimes, because there's times where you have to take something, like for instance, if you have too much corruption, you get that eyeball over your head.
Oh, yeah.
And that eyeball isn't going to necessarily kill you as a healer. So there's times where you just have to soak that thing and make sure everybody else stays alive.
Right. Damn eyeball. That's all right, though. I think the corruption stuff's kind of fun. Keeps it interesting.
Yeah, definitely. As a healer, I don't recommend ever going past going into like 40. I don't recommend going any higher than you have to.
Yeah, I'm at 35 right now, and if I go over 40, then the circle goes from like this big to wow, and I can't get out of it anyway. So
I think I'm currently 30, but I could probably get rid of 12 of it.
Yeah. Feel good about that?
Yeah.
Well, cool. So now DPS, you can, like, you're supposed to keybind, like supposed to in quotes, right? Healer's a little different because we have the raid frames we're clicking on. So how do you set up your keys? Do you have like a 12-button mouse? Do you keybind, or is there like something else that's awesome that I don't know about yet?
No, I don't have like anything crazy like mouse wise. My mouse, I think the only thing crazy my mouse has, it has a sniper button on the side of it. And when my Corsair software decides to work, I use it as my, I have it bound to what my dispel is. And so it helps to have that on like my thumb and stuff. But for the most part, my mouse is very basic. It has, other than those, it has 3 buttons, and that's including the sniper button and a home and back button. And one of which is used as my push to talk, and the other one's used as my run.
Yeah, there you go.
But for the most part, my basic keyboard setup has it. I'm a bit of both. I like to manually, interact with my unit frames, and I like to manually hit certain cooldowns to make sure that they are going off and not like fat fingering them and doing goofy stuff. Nice.
Yeah, that was I kind of did that too. Like, I like to have like my 1 through 4. Like, I'll have healing rain on 1. What did I have? I think I had my capacitor totem. When I was running that, I'd have that up there. Ghost Wolf was on 3. And then I had like a mana pot or something on 4.
No, like I definitely have. I use that 1 through 10 all the time, and then it gets down to the top bar, and then I have a small section off to the side. I like to keep my bars down to like 2, but even then it's like I'm pushing it maybe. I'm sure when in Shadowlands, when I get my totems back, I will see the return of totem timers, which will end up having another bar of totems.
Yeah. Oh, I used that too. That thing was awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember using the actual totem bar that Blizzard tried to give us?
That was awful. I'm sorry. It just was awful. And half the time I just pulled the ones I used off of that to use it.
That's what I did too. I was like, this thing sucks. Like, you tried to flip to a different one. You have to sit there and you're like, okay. It's like 3 seconds later, you finally get that one thing you needed to cast 2 seconds ago, ready to go.
Right. And like, you're going to probably see Pally Power come back and some of these other things. And it's like, ooh, okay.
Oh, that's awesome. So the setup there, important to get comfortable with it, feel good about it. Because ultimately, if you're not feeling good with your UI, your setup, you're going to struggle because you're going to be farting around buttons and stuff all the time. But once you get it dialed in, now we're stepping into a fight here. So what are some of the materials that you have, like, you bring personally? So like any pots, flasks, runes?
So you're going to find Icy Vein does have like a great list of of like what you need and stuff like that. But so my guild, we have some really great people out there who provide cauldrons a lot of the time. I do end up bringing my own flask just in case I'm slow and don't get the partaken flasks, or if they don't show up, it's always good to be prepared. I typically don't use the augment runes unless we're doing progression. Now that's going to change once I hit Exalted with Rajani, which is soon TM.
Mm-hmm.
I find I don't like the coastal mana potions. It's just not enough. I use a lot of potions of replenishment.
Mm-hmm.
They're the one they take you out of the fight for a little bit. They give you a lot more mana.
Yeah, they put you to sleep. It's like 10 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, and you can break it whenever you want. There in previous expansions, it didn't break you until you were done.
Mm-hmm.
So unless somebody dispelled you, which was awful, because it's like, oh hey, cool, appreciate that.
I'm still You were a little early on that one, pal.
Another thing that people often forget about is the abyssal healing potions are off the same cooldown as your lock candy, and so they can be used together.
Interesting.
So it's I think that's something everybody should run, because there are times where I'll be calling out because I'll look at the bar and be like, oh crap, all the cooldowns are off. Like, hey, everybody use your lock rocks and your potions, and nobody dies. It's another cooldown basically.
Oh, that's good to know, because I had no idea. So those are the abyssal healing potions?
Yep, the abyssal healing potions are very cheap to make.
Nice. I like cheap. So do you have any, like when you bring your flask, do you have like any professions that help you contribute towards this? So
I'm an engineer alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the guy that's dropping the jeeves and the mailbox for the people who forgot to pick up their stuff. But I do, make my own mana pots when I have the time to actually go farm them at one of my alts, or if I can just go buy them off the auction house. Mm-hmm. And I will sometimes contribute large amounts of flasks to like the guild bank. But I haven't been doing that too much this expansion. I need to get back to doing that. Last expansion, I probably gave the guild bank probably like 3,000-4,000 flasks over the course of the expansion.
Wow, that's impressive.
It's always good, and half the time I'm passing out DPS ones to RTPS because I always forget them.
Oh yeah, no, that happens.
Yeah,
everyone forgets something at some point, right? But that's why we have a guild. We're all here for each other.
Right. Food-wise, like I said, the guild's really great about providing the, what is the famine eradicator thing? The one where we're eating the metal, the new feast. The new feast. But when I do also carry around a bunch of McDowell's Big Macs, because Big Macs, because that's what it recommends for me personally. Mm-hmm. And when I'm running too much of that stat, I run I think they're the baked potatoes. So
those are good too.
Yeah.
I run the Big Macs as well, and it's fun. I like the reference that they're doing on that one. Coming to America. That's awesome. Well, cool. So now pre-pull, I know DPSers, they like to pre-pot their main, damage boosters and whatever. As a healer, is that something you do as well, or do you hold off on those pots? So
it depends on the fight. So this expansion, we've had one boss that has really kind of demanded that, and it was Ashvane on Mythic. Ashvane required us all to hit DPS potions prior to the pull. Even as a healer, the healers were doing a little bit of damage to help with that. But for the most part, we haven't had like a real like patchwork style fight where somebody's just wailing on the tank immediately. So you really don't usually need to pre-pot as a healer, unless you're doing some like DPS ones, DPS like a little bit of DPS at the start of the fight.
Yeah. No, I know that I never pre-potted. I was more worried about setting up my healing rain and getting that kind of ready to rock and roll, figuring out where everyone was going to go.
Definitely. There's a lot of like heals that you can like that's more of our kind of pre-pot, I guess, hand quotes pre-pot, because
Right.
setting up pre-heals where we're probably going, making sure they're in place.
And you can drop heals right in front of the boss that won't pull them. So if you know the tank's going there, don't be afraid to drop one there.
Exactly.
And if your druid drops an F-flow right there, it's okay to stack Healing Rain.
Mm-hmm. You know, for a while there, people seem to be afraid of the circles on the ground. but I promise you, not all of them want to kill you.
Right. Well, I mean, to be fair, we had a stretch of raids where it was all green all the time. So we saw a green circle and we're like, get out of that.
Well, the bright side is Blizzard has been teaching us what the bosses actually do, which circles to not stack in, which circles to stack in.
Right.
And they've been doing it for years. So a lot of times you just say, oh, hey, this circle has a big upside down tornado. The group needs to stack on it. Because every time that one has come up, that's what that ability does. And if you have just have a circle around your character that moves, that means you need to get out of the group.
Yeah. Move. Well, cool. All right. So during the fight, so now we kind of touched on placement, and you mentioned that you were very observant, which I kind of want to dive into a little bit more. So, like, when a fight's taking place, so the boss is pulled, and you mentioned that the room is like another boss. Like, what are some of those things that you look for during a fight? So
it helps to kind of see the field, like the battlefield, as the boss itself. A good boss to compare it to is you'll probably see him in LFR soon. Is the Drestagoth, I think his name is. He's the big tentacle with the eye in the middle.
Oh yeah.
So his room has some LOS issues in it. And so understanding where those is a big part of the fight, because the fight itself is a joke on pretty much all the difficulties. Maybe not mythic, but going through and just make sure that as soon as that tank is like, you could be healing, and next thing you know is like, can I heal? And like, oh crap, so and so is over this one little pebble. I can't heal through. It definitely helps to know where they're going, or like certain things are going to spit on the ground. It helps to know, like, for instance, the dog boss in the same wing, the two-headed dog with all the eyeballs. I don't remember.
I can't remember his name. Something Oth, I'm betting.
But he but he definitely, like, he puts crap all over the floor all the time, so it helps to know, like, hey, I need to be somewhat spread out to make sure that I don't get annihilated by this ability, because more than likely you'll get into the habit of knowing, okay, well, so and so is probably going to die right here.
Right.
But you can pretty much guarantee, we raid with 30 people, and sometimes when we pull that boss, it's like, okay, well, 3 people are going to die this first time, and and you're like, oh, hey, it was only 2 today. Awesome. It just makes, but it happens. You can't get mad about it. Not everybody's computer's the same. It can't handle it. And then like some bosses are just not optimized great. And Carapace is a great example for that. Like next thing you know, actually that's a great one for the room. Once you eventually get to Carapace, there's these giant tentacles that pop out of the ground and slam on the ground and stuff. So understanding that the big shadow is not where you want to be is a great thing. But when all the ads pop out, it just makes everybody's computers chug.
Oh yeah. Well, that one brought my computer to its knees.
Mine's a fairly new rig, and I have a pretty high-end CPU, GPU, and it even brings me down to like nothing for a good half seconds. But understanding that it always happens that way, it helps to like be prepared for it. Like we run a lot of shamans in my group overall, so we all hit Earth Elemental Totem and throw them at the boss. And so when all those ads come out, they're not annihilating the tanks while we're having that lag spike.
Right. They all turn to those elementals.
Exactly.
Which is great. Yeah, so I think a good moral of that story, like you were mentioning, sometimes you have to throw in some DPS stuff in there to help the group. Because Ashfane, if you weren't fast enough, you're dead. Like you weren't getting that shield down.
Exactly.
The Earth Elemental is great for. I mean, I know this isn't the healing shaman show, but but it's stuff like that where you can pull adds off of things. Like the healer is. It's not just like your one trick pony. Like the healer can do all kinds of cool stuff. And that's why I love playing as a healer.
We have Ring of Peace that is a very powerful cooldown. You have Typhoon from Druids, Tangling Roots. There is I think priests even still have Fear. So there are these massively good cooldowns that are just super powerful.
Mm-hmm. Oh hell, I mean, shamans have a ranged interrupt that's on a shorter cooldown.
Yeah, and often that is probably my most used cooldown.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, that's big time. Like if you can, being active and preventing damage is also healing in a way as well. So if that one mob can't get that cast off, they're not hurting anybody.
Like we found recently, so our guild got AOTC last night.
Nice.
We found that interrupting the corruptors versus, because most of the interrupts are free, was a lot more efficient than using the mana from cleanses. So for the most part, we had very little cleanses because we were busy interrupting the eyeballs.
That's awesome. I mean, if you can do those things and be proactive in stopping the damage as well as obviously healing it, then that's going to be cool.
Well, sometimes healing is a lot like triage. So there are people who are going to die on fights. It's sometimes you can't let it bother you. It is part of raiding. Sometimes you have to make that decision. It's like, okay, am I going to heal this rogue or am I going to heal the tank?
Mm-hmm.
And often it comes down to, I need to make sure the tank doesn't die, because if that tank dies, multiple people are going to die.
Exactly. So that leads perfectly into the next question. Since we are the arbiters of life, if you will, when a DPS is trying to get that sweet, sweet parse and ignoring mechanics, do you let them die or do you try to save them?
It depends. If it's something, I definitely don't go out of my way to try to let people die.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame them for dying. It's part of, like I said, it's part of raiding. And I don't take it personally, even if they might.
Right.
But if they're standing in way too much stuff, or you have some hunter that's off to the side that's not with the group, and your smart heals are only sticking to that target instead of bouncing to multiple targets, you may okay, well, it's not really worth my time to use those abilities on that target versus some other targets. Am I still going to heal them? Yes. Are they helping me? Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all a team, and it's okay to think that we're a team and act like we're a team.
Oh man, yeah. So I mean, and that was more of a joke question, just to kind of, because I mean, they're on our raid team, we always give each other crap.
Well, for a long time, our healers we've had this no heal list, this elusive no heal list, and some people think it's real, some people think it's not. So and it's good to remind people sometimes that the no heal list may or may not exist.
That's right. You want to get on the no heal list? Don't get out of the fire then. That's fantastic. Now you mentioned that you track the cooldowns and stuff. Now, do you have a structure in your guild? Are you like the heal team leader, or do you have a heal team leader?
In progression rating, I've been the heal lead.
Mm-hmm.
What I fit, and in other stuff, I've been the raid leader. What I fit kind of now is a kind of amalgamation of both. I'm not like the main raid leader. I'm more of like a secondary, or if not third, raid leader. My guild calls me kind of like a shot caller, and I do definitely coordinate the heals and healers. Like when I need to call it, okay, we need a tremor totem for this ability, and I'll go through, you do this, I'll do third, or, so-and-so will do, first or second, and I'll talk, okay, we need to make sure somebody's interrupting this, because it's okay for your healers to interrupt.
Right.
As long as we're not too busy.
Yeah. No, if you can, do it. Hell, and if you can sneak in a couple jabs in there, go for it as well.
Exactly. But, I do call out because I can see things that our tank, who is the raid leader, may or may not see.
Right.
So for the purple dragon boss, I think it's Valley something or other.
Veloxenia or something like that.
Something like that. On her, I definitely call out the lanes. Like, okay, dragons coming down door side, going down middle, going down, far side, and that way the rest of the raid can focus on what they're doing. But at the same time, I can do my job and also keep people alive and see that.
Right.
So
yeah, no, and we have kind of that view from the back because like tanks and stuff, I mean, they're all up in that boss, so their screen is boss crotch.
Yeah.
To put it nicely, literally, or giant foot or whatever's in their face.
It definitely depends on like the boss too, and like sometimes you have a person-sized boss and your tank can see everything, and sometimes you have Brutalis that's just giant mountain of meat, and you're trying to figure out, and your tank can only see that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so communication is important because you don't want to be dropping all your cooldowns at once.
Exactly, and communicating with your tanks is also very important. I think I've always said this about with healing. Probably one of your biggest thing I recommend for any healer is get a microphone, especially if you're joining a guild, because you can. There's a lot of times most of the healers are quiet, but it helps to be like, "Hey, I'm out of mana. I need an innervate," or "Hey, so and so needs an external." And it's okay to like call out, "Hey, I need a cocoon on this boss, on this tank."
Right.
Bark skin, all whatever.
Yeah. No, that's critical, and it's nice when your tanks are open with that communication as well. Our tanks are pretty cool when it comes to that stuff. They'll let us know. Like our demon hunter will say, "Hey, I just used my cheat death, so prepare yourselves. I might not make her."
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's. Obviously, communication in any team environment's important, but especially on the heal side, I feel like that is really a vital piece to it.
Well, the healers are a team, and you have to make sure that every member of the team is feeling what's needed for the raid to succeed. And it's important to synergize your cooldowns as much as you can and spread them out, and at the same time still having fun doing it.
Exactly. Now, speaking of fun while you're doing it, do you guys have a fun nickname for your heal team?
No, we definitely have our secret healer chat channel, but which isn't too much in use nowadays, but it was very much in use for a long time.
Oh, we have one too, and then somehow like the tanks found out about it, and then everyone else found out about it.
Well, it's good to keep it secret.
Yeah. No, when I was healing, so like my heal partner, who's now my DPS partner, Alavende, he was a druid. Or he's a warrior now, but his main healing tune is a druid. We used to call ourselves the Mega Powers, like Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man. And then when our heal team grew, we grew into heal team 6.
Oh my God.
I know. We're dorks like that. But I mean, we kind of have that camaraderie, that brotherhood and sisterhood of just being together and knowing like, hey, we're going to win because we're going to go in there and we're going to heal some ass. So let's have some fun while we're doing it. And that's been our recipe for success.
That's good.
So let's talk post-fight. I don't know if anyone saw the stream this last weekend. I did a DPS one, and I showed WoW logs and WoW Analyzer. So do you use anything like that to help you kind of hone in your healing rotation, not rotation, but like your performance and just trying to judge how you did during a fight?
I do and I don't. Our guild runs Warcraft logs, and I use details for my my meters. And if I'm feeling like, okay, so if I'm like, I wonder why I'm not doing as well here, I'll pull up the logs and I will make sure that I'm hitting X, Y, and Z. Recently, I had blown off like the new essences and stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't need them. I'm fine. My set, I like my setup or whatever. And then once some of the other guys started rocking the new essences, and I was going through, I'm like, why are they going so much? There's an incremental amount more than last week. So I'll pull up and I'm like, oh, Unwavering Ward is awesome apparently. So let's go ahead and switch something out. And then like this week we rocked it, and I'm like, oh, hey, awesome. There we go. That fixed that little problem. But I think it's always important to look at what you can do to grow and make sure, like, yeah, it's cool to parse and stuff. And trust me, I love to parse when I can, but there are times where I'm stuck off in a corner interrupting an eyeball to make sure that the DPS can focus and kill the boss.
And that's the fun thing about healing is the numbers don't necessarily matter. So, I mean, as long as we're winning, obviously. Now, if your numbers are really bad, then you might want to look at that. Or like if, it's a good thing to kind of check periodically, like you're saying, because you might catch that one little thing you're missing where, I should probably get this essence, or, maybe I'm using this spell too much. Maybe I need to flip it around and use this one a little bit more.
Right. And it also helps like look at your essences and see how you can change to more optimally use them. It's not as bad as it used to be with tier sets. A lot of times your how you function changed completely. But nowadays it's not so much that. That's one of the great things about the essence system. It might not be what I currently like, but it's what we have.
It's a positive. We're picking out the positives.
Yeah, we're picking up the positives.
Well, that's what, like, I was thinking about the Azurite stuff the other day, and I was like, what do I like about it? And I was like, honestly, it gives me the illusion of choice. Like, I could switch something out if I want to, so it's kind of fun.
Well, and it definitely doesn't lock you into certain pieces of gear.
Right.
And tier sets had a bad habit of doing that. And definitely when you could get multiple sets and stuff, it was great. Multiple pieces, like, okay, I need my 4-piece here, or I also need a 2-piece from this other raid, even though it's not current. But it's not so much that way anymore, and I think that's a thing for the better.
Well, and I appreciate the move to try to do something about that. Like, I know the Azurite system wasn't perfection to begin with, but I mean, Blizzard tried. Right. You can't fault them for that. I don't know. Internet's going to kill me for that one now, I guess. You have an opinion? No. How dare you, sir?
No, don't get me wrong. I would love to see tier sets back.
Oh, I would too.
And it did add another complexity that Azurite doesn't really do nowadays. But at the same time, I can see why they got away from it. But am I going to hold my breath until they reinstate it? Probably not, because it's going to be a while.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Shadowlands, and who knows what new system will come about. So, I don't know, man. Well, I like that they're bringing back some of the old talent or abilities. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I actually stood up and cheered when they announced the totems at BlizzCon.
Oh, I did too. I freaked out. Were you there?
Yep, I was front row.
Oh, nice.
The Mythic stage. got to see the Diablo trailer fiasco on the Mythic stage. That was fabulous.
Oh, man. Yeah, I was over in the Overwatch area for the main ceremony. And then when they did the panel, I was like on the right side of the Mythic stage. But that was so fun.
Yep, it was a great time. I've gone the last 5 years. I'm probably skipping this year, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what they'd even announce.
No, I feel like they blew their load with the last one.
Yeah.
A lot of this will end up being a dates. I have a feeling, but I could be very wrong.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, if it's happening, I want to go just so I can meet people. But hopefully, we'll see. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great time.
All right, cool. Well, this leads us to my favorite part of the show. So what is your all-time favorite Scrubbalicious moment where you did something so awful and dumb that you wanted to just log out and freeze your account and just never play again?
So I have two. One from a long time ago and one from this weekend. So I've talked about being this heal lead slash assistant raid leader build. So when you're a very communicative healer, a lot of times you get given a job when it comes to a boss. And in a raid called Sunwell, there's a boss named Fellmist.
Mm-hmm.
Very terrible boss. It's very similar to the purple dragon boss I explained earlier with the lanes, especially when she's doing things. So I'm here watching the boss, trying to make sure we go the right lanes so we don't get mind controlled and wipe. And I might have called some wrong lanes a couple times in a row. Which led to multiple wipes. And they're like, "Are you okay? Can you handle this?" And I'm like, "Yes, I can handle it. We're fine. We're fine."
Can you handle it?
And when you're rating at a progression level, like our guild at the time was, I think we were second or third on server. And so, this is, Sunwell at current raid content. So it's like cutting edge rating.
Right.
And you're like, "Oh crap, not again." Like, "Are you all right?" So you're like, yes, I'm fine. I can do this.
Sun's in my eyes. I don't know. It's 10 o'clock at night.
So this weekend, I was running some. I've been doing a lot of mount farming lately, and so my bags have been full of a lot of junk. So my UI decided it wanted to bug out and unequip 2 pieces of my gear.
Oh no!
Which got fendered. So it was my Diver's Folly for my offhand when I do world quests out in the world as Enhance. Socketed 435. It's like, okay, yeah, I don't need that.
Yeah.
But my 465 bracers from Mythic Plus that are what I use all the time, I didn't realize until the day after I restored the Diver's Folly. And I was like, "Oh crap." And so when I'm frantically trying to restore this, I'm like, "You can't do it for another 20 something days." And I'm like, "Oh no.
Oh no."
So I made a nice little ticket begging Blizzard to do this because I was half expecting I'm going to have to shell out 300,000 gold for these crappy, heroic bracers out of Eternal Palace just so I can raid at some degree. And I'm dreading it because I'm like, okay, I'm going to give a bunch of advice on this show I'm coming on this weekend. And I'm going to be in blue 420 bracers I got from doing some world quests. And the lovely GM was like, "Yes, we'll help you out." And I'm like, "Thank God."
Oh no. That is brutal, man. Well, hopefully so the guild helped you, right?
Well, so I got my bracers back, so it wasn't a big deal.
Oh, that's good.
So in the end, it was a big freak out that because I was having a bit of "Oh crap, we got progression tomorrow," on Nazoth, and so it's like, please help me, Blizzard.
Whoops. Oh, that's funny. I got a good one. So the essence from the small visions you can do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was in elemental spec. I made the switch, right? Go through, 3 weeks go by, I get my things. I'm like, hell yeah, I get my essence. This is going to be sweet. Right click it, make the essence. And for some reason, I'm still in my resto loot spec.
Oof.
So I had to wait another week to get that one. Whoops.
Yeah, that's a big whoops.
Yeah. So check your loot specs, folks.
It also helps. I had a bit of that in Legion as a demon hunter because I was filling in as a secondary tank. And we were doing Urzok. And so I'm on Urzak being an off tank, and I am having my tank and tank spec. And what's my first legendary on my Demon Hunter?
Not
Tank
the one
legendary.
you want.
Legendary.
Oh my goodness. Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it.
It's all right. Stuff happens. You just kind of have to grit your teeth and go, yeah, that just happened.
Oh. Well, and then, you can laugh at it later.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Definitely.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, cool. So I think we covered all the bases we need to cover on this one. This is awesome. Do you have any final thoughts or tips or anything like that you want to share?
Honestly, I think people have this stigma over healing, but I think everybody who plays a DPS should at least roll a tank or a healer once as an alt, just so they understand what they put other people through. And not to mention, I am a firm believer that playing a healer as an alt or understanding how it works actually will make you a better player, because you're more likely to look for things going on around you, and it does also apply to you when you go back to your main DPS. You're not going to tunnel on the bus or something, or you're not going to you might look at the bars more often. Even when I played Enhance, I still have the healer mindset where I still somewhat call things out, even though I'm still up in the boss. I still tossed out free heals to people when they were into low. It's important to understand what is happening around you, and I find playing a healer or a tank fits that role.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes other people better.
It's beautiful. So true, man. Because, we're all coming together for this one objective: kill the thing. And if we can't be a team, then we're not going to win.
Exactly.
So, well, awesome. Well, where can the fine folks out in the internet world find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter, even though I basically use it very rarely, at Burkheart Gaming. It's spelled Burkhert. Gaming, you can spell gaming right. But on Twitter, you can find me on Twitch at Burkheart on Twitch. I stream most nights 4:30 Pacific to about 7:30 Pacific.
Nice.
So,
hell yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, if you want to go and see how Burke does it, go check out his stream. You go pick out some cool tips and get out there. We need more healers.
It's a good thing to do.
It is.
Definitely a thing to help. It's a good thing to do because we always need healers.
That's right.
Yep. We don't want these long queues.
Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
That was awesome. And thanks for listening to the show, everyone. You can find the show at Twitter at ScrubsVerse. You can find the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Cyrub. You can email the show at scrubsversetheworld@gmail.com. And if you could also stop by Apple Podcasts and leave a review there, I'd really appreciate it. I got a 5-star review there from the Jimmius. He said that you've got a great little podcast here, Cy. Excited to listen to more? Well, Jimmius, don't worry, bud. We got more coming your way. And if anyone else wants to leave a review, I will read it right here on the show. And also, don't forget, next weekend, we're going to have the supplementary stream where we go over the topic of healing in a raid. I'm going to have some folks joining me for that, and we're going to go heal an LFR. There, I'm going to show my setup, what I do when I heal. I use Voodoo, the add-on, so I'll show folks how to set that up. And we'll go through and hopefully keep people alive. So please join us there. Keep your eye on Twitter, again, at ScrubsVerse. I will post the time for that there. Wherever you're listening to the show, folks, I hope you have a great day out there. And as always, keep getting good.